You're listening to the Rite Retirement Show.
The 70% of people out there listening to the show today are going to need some level of care. It doesn't necessarily mean that 70% are going to end up in a nursing home, but 70% of people will need some assistance out there. The biggest fear is running out of money for the retiree, but what we see is not enough people spend enough of their money.
Cris prides himself in what matters to you. This is the Rite Retirement Show.
Hi there, I am Luann Fulmer. Welcome to the Rite Retirement Show with my friend and certified financial planner and financial advisor, Cris Wallace. Of course, he's president at WG Financial Group, here again today to give us some really helpful advice about retirement planning. He'll be answering questions you probably didn't even know you had questions about. Here's the phone number, 256-937-2010. That's how you can reach out to Cris. And remember, this is a complimentary appointment. You can call the number. You can text the word visit, 256-937-2010. Check us out on Facebook throughout the week. We record this show earlier in the week, but if anything happens in news headlines, anything in the world, Cris will make sure and update anything on that Facebook page, WG Financial Group 256. Our motto, plan, retire, play, and find us at WGFinancialGroup.com. Oh, one more thing. Our show is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Just search for the name of our show, the Rite Retirement Show. Cris, hello to you.
Hey, Luann, I'm back in the saddle. I feel like the old Aerosmith song.
Back in the saddle again. I agree.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, glad to have you back, dear.
Yeah, it's back when music was good, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I like anything now. I'll pull up something. I'm looking at a picture of something on Pinterest, like how something with fashion and some music's playing. Bobby's like, what is that? And I'm like, just don't worry. It's a video. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't pick it. Yeah. Yeah. But anyway,
awesome.
We've got a lot to get to today. So first of all, do you have any real talk for us?
I do. I just kind of wanted to finish up the thought there. It is good to be back. I mean, obviously my schedule with just some things at the office and then my travel coupled with Graham's travel and your travel, it is definitely good to be back. So I've kind of missed doing the recording, but I am so thankful to have someone like Graham be able to take the show and just kind of run it. Right.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
It's just, he does an amazing job. We always get really good feedback. And, but I'm also glad to be here, just me and you today. So it's like old times.
It's like old times. Exactly.
Yes.
I know. It's always nice.
Yeah, so let's jump into real talk. I actually posted this a little while back on our Facebook page. And so one of the things that we always kind of just talk about is just be careful where you get your information from. And we do the real talk, REEL, like the Facebook reels, the TikToks and the Instagram and all those social media reels. Some people are really good at doing those, and they make everything sound like, oh, it's true, because the way that AI editing works and the way that they do it, it just sounds really too good to be true. And in a lot of cases, it can be. Right. And so the article that I posted on our website was the IRS. This is straight from the IRS.gov website. The IRS assesses $162 million in penalties over false tax credit claims tied to social media.
Oh, wow.
So that article kind of like flowed right into what we talk about every week. Yeah. And essentially, basically the IRS flagged a surge in social media tax scams that encourage people to falsify eligibility. Now, I believe that there probably were some people out there that did it, and they probably thought that they were doing the right thing because we all kind of joke and say, hey, we saw it on Facebook. It's true. It's got to be true. We saw it on, saw it on Instagram or TikTok. Yeah. It's got to be true. Yeah. But there are people that have tried to, I guess, claim things that weren't real. And the IRS just wants you to be reminded that to use the official IRS rules and that you are still responsible as the taxpayer. If you're filling out your return and you think you're claiming something because TikTok told you claim it, you're still responsible, and that's what they ultimately want you to know. So I thought that was kind of appropriate, just based upon the real talk for this week. So that's kind of it. Just be careful. Again, I just always say use caution where you get your advice. Make sure the person is who they say they are, because just don't forget this. These social media platforms, once you get a lot of followers and clicks and likes and all that, sometimes can be monetary incentive for that person or individual or group of people, whomever. So just be careful of that.
Yeah. Good point. I love that. Real talk about things we really need to know. So I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, now tell us what's going on with the market.
Yeah, it's been surprisingly good. And I'm hesitant to say too much because, if you look today, it's actually a tick down a little bit. But, we just live in this crazy world where, we've got the government shut down. It's been shut down for several days at this point. And the market has just kind of shrugged it off for the most part.
It's kind of interesting, isn't it?
It is. I would have thought that it would have. I would have thought that it had been a little bit more volatile, if I'm being honest here, but it really hasn't. And I think that's a good thing for investors. And I think what's happened here lately is that the investors have decided, you know what, this is no big deal. This has happened a lot lately, and it's not really a big deal. So just keep on keeping on, and things are good. If you look at the year-to-date returns, I was trying to pull that up while I was making that comment there. The year-to-date returns for the S&P is up like 14.27% as of Tuesday. We're recording this on Tuesday. So not too bad. If you remember right, and I like to say things and rip Graham a little bit when he's not on the show, but remember we had our little friendly bet on air. We didn't really bet anything, but we gave our prediction on what the market would be. And I said it would be much higher than what he said. And here we are sitting at 14.27 for the year to date. Now, if Graham were sitting here today, and he's not, but if he were, he would say there's still time. There's still time. and we don't wish the market to go down for anybody, because all of us that have money invested, we're making money at this point. So so far so good. I anticipate a double-digit return year, and we'll see how things hold up through the end of fourth quarter. I will say this about the government shutdown. I think it's going to get pretty painful. I was actually talking with my father-in-law about this over the weekend. He was actually down from Ohio, so it's good to see them.
Oh, good.
And shout out if they're listening. It's always great to see them. I'm very blessed to have the in-laws that I have.
Aww.
But he and I were talking about it, and he seems to think that anything past the 15th is going to cause an issue, because there's going to be people that are going to get very upset if they miss a paycheck. Right. And I don't blame them, right? I mean, I know you get the back pay and all that.
Yeah, but still.
But there's a lot of people living paycheck to paycheck.
Right,
Let's just be honest. Like, that's reality for people raising kids, and I've been there. It's hard. So I don't know how much longer it could go on past the 15th. I think the prediction markets, if you're looking at those, are saying that there could be a shutdown. There's a high percentage chance that it could last between 15 and like 30 days or something like that. So the prediction markets are already saying that it's going to be a little bit longer. But I tend to agree with my father-in-law that anything past the 15th is going to start to upset a lot of people, because there's going to be missing paychecks.
Right.
So,
and I've kind of heard that too. Yeah.
You've heard the same thing?
Yeah,
okay. I think we all can kind of share the same opinion there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all that we want is just for our government to behave and work for us, not against us.
Behave.
And
I like that word.
Yeah, just behave and really act in the best interests of all United States citizens and taxpayers. And let's get this show on the road and get this government going again, so that we can kind of relax.
Right. No games.
Especially our federal employees. And then I will say this too. I'm sorry, I just continue to ramble on about this, but President Trump, saying that I just sometimes wish he just would be quiet. Just don't say things.
He can't help himself.
Right. So he's talking about maybe not everybody comes back to work kind of thing. And I did hear that through somebody that we're potentially working with. They kind of sent me an email and said they got kind of a RIF letter, potential that there could be a RIF. And I just wish he wouldn't say stuff like that, because that creates a little bit of anxiety. And, with the way that like media flies around these days and headlines, I just wish you would just be quiet about that and not say that. If it happens, if it happens, it happens. But just do your job and don't talk so much. How about that?
Yeah, right. Can you not just zip it? Yeah. Hold your one thought in that you shouldn't probably say.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you're married, you have to develop a really good filter, or you won't be married that long.
Yes, you have to.
That's kind of what you're married to the United States right now. So sometimes there needs to be a filter on some things that you say.
Right. He has never had a filter. That's his problem. But, we elected him because he was so different. He wasn't a lifetime politician. But yeah, I can't believe he hasn't learned yet, but he still has 3 more years.
Right. That's what you get. So
yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, so do you want to get into a federal minute for people? Yeah.
I do. I just, with all of this that's going on, we've got retirees at the end of September that's retired. So some of this information might be too late for them, but we got another batch probably at the end of this year, potential rifts and all of that we just talked about on the federal side of things. So one of the things that I'm going to give like a kind of like a bullet point list, and this came from Cris Wallace with ProFed. She's the owner of ProFeds, and I kind of work with their group, and she sent a YouTube video out, and I just kind of made some bullet points there. And I'm going to kind of run through these kind of quick because this show isn't going to be all about federal employees, but we do like to include a Fed minute.
Yeah.
So there's about 12 things that she kind of identified that federal employees should think about doing. And number one, and we've talked about this, is download your electronic official personnel file, better known as EOPF, because really once you leave service, you may not have access to that. Actually, you won't have access to that. You probably want to download the last 3 years of pay stubs. This just helps document your earnings, which is responsible for your high 3 on your pension calculation. Download training records, capture certifications, continue education, and training history. This can be useful for future job applications with federal employment. Update your login information for your payroll processor. You want to update your email that's associated with your thrift savings account, because a lot of you still have your federal email tied to the thrift savings. Get your retirement estimates. You want to go ahead and do that. Ensure your veteran's preference is correctly noted on your SF50. So that's another thing that you want to get done there. And make sure you have a copy of your military deposit receipt. If you made a plan to make a deposit for military service, you want to get receipt and documentation before you lose access. And save all important documents. Obviously, that sounds just kind of cliche. Save your contact information, update your beneficiary information. And this is an important one right here. Have cash on hand for the transition period. So as you retire, you turn in your paperwork. The joke is it goes to a cave in Pennsylvania. And it's not really a joke. That's reality. And sometimes that can take a while. And sometimes if things aren't filled out properly and all of a sudden your pension takes a little bit longer, you need to have some cash on hand. Now, you will eventually get kind of an estimated payment, but it can take a little while for your actual real pension to start. So you do want to have some transitional cash there as well. So that's kind of the federal minute, several bullet points there. Again, I know I ran through those relatively quickly, but we've got some other stuff that we want to get to on the show, and I just don't want to spend too much time on just federal benefits.
No, but I think that is a great idea. Before you lose access to all of these things, make sure you get that done. Yeah. I mean, that's with any company. If you're leaving a company, even around here, if you leave by 5 p.m. on your last day, you have no more access to your computer. Yeah. So that's what's done, so I love that. Great tips there. So, okay, let's get into something that touches every retiree, and that's Social Security, Cris. I want to talk about the new cost of living adjustment that is about to be announced. I know you love talking about this. The COLA is designed to help benefits keep pace with inflation. So what do you think? Does it really make a big difference?
I mean, it does. If you just think about those that have pensions out there that have no COLA, it does make a difference. Now, it may not keep up with the full cost of living for a retiree, because we know we've got healthcare that gets factored in there as well, and typically our healthcare gets a little more expensive as we age. So I think it definitely helps. Is it going to keep up with the real inflation? I would say no, but again, compare it to not having a pension, or not having a COLA on a pension, because that is something I hear from other retirees that have just like a standard pension with no COLA, is that's bothersome to them. Well, at least Social Security does have a COLA component on it. And if you're fortunate enough to work for the federal government and you have a pension that's tied to COLA, and maybe you're military and that's, has a COLA attached to it, at times you can have 3 sources of income that have COLAs. If you're military, went to work for the federal government after you retired military, and you got Social Security, you got 3 sources of income that have COLA, where most people are going to have one at worst case scenario, which is your Social Security. So I do think it helps. but I don't think it's going to cover everything. And that's probably what we're going to talk about today, is kind of get into some of that.
And because you and your team do a complete retirement plan for people, talk about how we need to be thinking about Social Security in that overall plan.
Yes. Well, first of all, it's kind of the foundation, right? It's a portion of your guaranteed income stream. And I know every time I say that, I always say, I know there's people out there saying, well, it's not guaranteed. Well, yeah, technically it's not, because there's a lot of headlines today that it's going to run dry in 2033 and 2032. And to me, those are just very scare tactics. They're designed to get clicks. And the reality is it could, right? It really could. But we've said this 100 times on the show, probably maybe 102 times, if something like that. But essentially, there's around 21% of the U.S. population on some form of Social Security. And if you think that they're going to cut those individuals' benefits, because some of those are disability benefits for people that can't work, or kids that have lost parents or grandparents have adopted them, and there's many different scenarios there. But if you truly believe that the government will cut those benefits by, say, 25 or so percent, then I guess you can believe that. I tend to believe the other side of the coin there, which is I don't think that's going to happen. So I don't let it drive my decisions with clients. But even if they did, wouldn't you rather have a Social Security benefit that was a larger amount that was cut by, say, 25%? Than a smaller amount that was cut by 25%. I mean, that's the way I look at it. So when at the office, when we're looking at Social Security, we're looking at it from the standpoint of, one, it's your foundational piece of income, part of it. It was designed to replace about 40% of income for most retirees. So you've got your income. Now you've got this COLA attached to it as well, which we just discussed. And then we start to look at other things. Why is it important? So another area that I feel like it's very important is for spousal protection. And we've harped on this many, many times on the show. And I can say, and I've said this before on the show, that our radio listeners are our most well-behaved when they come in the office in terms of their Social Security thought process, because they've listened to the show for a long time, and we beat the drum of several things, one of which is spousal protection. So when I talk about that, I'm talking about the higher income earner getting or delaying his or her Social Security for a little bit longer, so that if they pass away, the surviving spouse keeps the higher of the two, so they keep that higher social. So essentially, if you're the higher income earner and you're fear-driven and you collect at 62, you've essentially cut your benefit by 30%, but you've also cut your surviving spouses as well. And so we have to think about that. The other thing that we have to think about is Social Security, 15% of it is free. And what do I mean when I say it's free? Nothing's really free, right? Well, 15% of it is free from federal taxation, because at worst case scenario, only a maximum of 85% of Social Security is taxed. So 15% essentially is free from federal tax. And here in the state of Alabama, over, in Tennessee as well, there is no state tax. But here in Alabama, Social Security is not taxed. So it's basically 15% is free from federal and free from state as well. 100% would be free from state here in Alabama.
That's awesome. I think it should be that way everywhere.
Well, it should. There's a handful of states. I think it's 7 or 8, something like that actually tax Social Security. Most states, it is free from taxation. So when we talk about the 15% free from federal tax, here again, 15% is 15%, but 15% from a larger amount, i.e. deferring it, is in dollars larger than the smaller 15% of your smaller amount, right? So that's important. So we need to look at it from a tax perspective as well. So that's where I'm going with this whole point, is that 15% is not subject to federal tax. So it's much more tax efficient than, say, an IRA withdrawal. So I think you have to look at a very data-driven decision. I may have some listeners out there right now that are going, Chris, I'm in really bad health, and I'm 62 and I've been diagnosed with, an illness that I'm probably not going to last another 3 or 4 years. I would still argue not to claim, because you're at that point, you're not going to break even anyway, because that's typically how we think about Social Security, is that break even. Well, you're not going to break even anyway if your life expectancy now is 3 or 4 years, right? If you kind of know that's going to happen. Now you have to think about your spouse, your surviving spouse. And if his or hers is lower and yours is higher, then I still wouldn't claim, because if I claim, then I've penalized my surviving spouse. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of decisions that go into Social Security. And I think what most people do is they just strictly look at the break even, which is, depending on the COLA that you use, is going to be somewhere between 78 and 80 for most people. And I think you have to look at it on a deeper level. And every time I have this conversation with a non-radio listener who is strictly looking at the break even, you can see the light bulb go on in their head. I mean, not really, but you can see it in their face. Their
They're
face
like,
kind of,
huh. Mhm.
you know, and that's basically what they do. The noise you just made, is I never thought of it that way. I
Yeah.
never looked at it that way.
Yeah.
And you have to look at Social Security more as a family decision and not necessarily an individual decision. And I know that there are husbands and wives out there who will say things like, honey, just go ahead. Go ahead and it's yours. You claim. Do what you want to do. Well, I'm sitting in the meeting going, honey, we need to talk about this. It's more of a family decision. And
Yeah.
let's not make this an individual decision. Let's see what's best for the family. So that's kind of, when we look at Social Security, that's how we look at it at the office.
Chris, what about wealthier retirees? How should they approach Social Security?
That's a great question, actually, because I literally, and I know some people probably say, oh, this is so scripted. No, like I literally just had a Social Security discussion with one of my longtime clients, and he has a higher net worth. Okay. So one of the conversation piece around mine and his conversation was, and I literally told him this. I said, listen, I know that you're going to think that I don't care when I say this. I'm prefacing this by saying I do care, but I don't care. Like in this specific situation, I don't care when you claim, because you're not going to run out of money. And the assets are there to protect your spouse in the event you pass early. So it really doesn't matter, because we've worked on strategies, or I've worked on strategies in the past where, you know, doing conversions help. So if you got a situation where somebody's got all Roth IRA money and maybe they have enough of that to make it all the way through retirement, they're not thinking about taxes at that point because they're pretty much in the zero bracket for the rest of their time. And so I think for the wealthy individual, it doesn't matter as much. Let me say it that way. It just doesn't matter as much. So again, just having that conversation just the other day, and
and I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, you didn't. No. And I think that you just, when it comes to a wealthier individual, it matters less in a lot of cases. So it just matters less. Let's put it that way. It's every client or prospect is different in their own situation, but let's just say it just matters less.
Yes, of course. Now, what about this? Have you ever heard people say that COLA is going to take care of inflation for me in retirement? What would you say to that?
Not anymore.
Okay.
Not anymore, because I think most people, when they think about Social Security and the cost of living, and then they look at what they're paying for a basket of groceries at the grocery store, they know the COLA is not going to take care of them. And I would agree to that. I mean, I buy the same groceries everybody else buys.
Yes.
I go out to eat at the same restaurants that everybody else goes out to eat at. And it's just a lot more expensive these days. So let's talk a little bit before the first half of the show is over with, just about what 2026 is projected to look like.
Okay.
So right now they're projecting the Social Security COLA to be 2.7%. Now that's slightly more than last year at 2.5. So what does that really mean? The average benefit of Social Security is going to be likely between $2,008 to $2,062. That's going to be the average benefit after the COLA. Okay. So that represents about roughly a $54 a month increase for the average retiree based on that 2.7% COLA. Now, some analysts are saying that it could even be as high as 2.8, and I think that really depends on how inflation trends through the end of September, because inflation always reports a little bit behind there. So we won't know the full inflationary impact until the rest of this inflationary data comes out. But they're projecting it to be somewhere around 2.7. But here's the kicker. All right, so that's Social Security. But here's the kicker: Medicare.
Yeah.
So Medicare is projected to go from $185.50. So that is the normal Part B cost today. So if you're a retiree today and you're not in any of the IRMA brackets, then your Medicare cost today for Part B, remember A is free, right. B cost you. Mm-hmm. That would be $185.50 today. They're projecting that to go to $206.50 6.5. So that represents an 11.32% increase in Medicare. So most of a retiree's cost, I think it's going to be one of the more expensive things that retirees are going to pay for outside of taxes is your health insurance. And so that's 11.32% cost increase there.
Dang.
So the takeaway is that is basically an average of $21 a month, and that wipes out about 40% of the Social Security COLA that was just given there.
Wow.
So it really leaves the retiree with a net gain of about $33 a month.
Oh, man.
So just think about $33 a month.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm a retiree, and I know we're always taught to be thankful, and I try to be a thankful person in my own life, but think about how far $33 goes right now.
Yeah, think about that. If you went to the grocery store, no, not much.
Oh, I can tell you
Not
right
much.
now. I can tell you right now that I very seldom walk out of the grocery store with a less than $60 bill.
Yeah, I believe
And if
it.
it's, I don't want to name any names, but if it's one of those big go buy in bulk stores, it's a three-figure thing every time I go. Every time I go, right?
Yes.
So just think about it. I mean, just as you're listening to the show right now, driving, cutting grass, working in the shop, $33 don't go very far. It doesn't fill up. It fills up half of my tank is what it does in terms of gas. Like I said, I can't walk out of the grocery store right now, for less than about $50 to $60 every single time that I go. And I don't buy that many items. It's just that every item costs $10, it seems like. I think about when I go to a fast food restaurant, I think about what it used to cost me. And I get it. Like, we're not in the 1990s, but I can remember going to fast food restaurants in the 90s, and it was like $3.
Right,
And if they ran a sale, it might be like $2.75 or something like that. Well, it's $10 every time I go now. And on top of that, it's not even healthy. But the point is, like $33 literally will barely buy a meal fast food.
That's so true. Bobby and I would go somewhere. Yeah, it's around $30.
It is.
Two
It is.
2 meals. Yeah.
And I remember the day when I used to go out to eat with my kids, and all five of us would go out to eat, and $33 would pay for it.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought $33 at that time was expensive.
Yeah.
And I mean, because let's be real, there's the cheaper fast food restaurants, and then there's the more expensive fast food. And I thought we were like going up in
going
life.
to the more expensive.
Yeah, we're going out. We're going to a more expensive one, and I could buy it for $33, but I can't do that now. I can barely eat two people at a fast food restaurant for $33.
Yeah.
So all the more reason why I think that families need to make a solid decision when it comes to Social Security and factor that into their retirement plan relative to the other sources of income. It also gives you validation on why you need to invest your money as well, because we need the other forms of your retirement planning, assets to be growing as well to kind of offset some of that additional inflationary impact that we're all going to see. So, Luann, we are out of time for the first half of the show.
Yeah,
it
we are.
flew by.
It did fly by.
I looked down at the clock and it's like, whoa, it's almost time to go. So if you're catching this episode on the way to church, which most of you are, you can hop out to Apple Podcast or Spotify, which, by the way, we did fix the upload link. We did find out from several people that emailed us, hey, your shows aren't uploading. So my son did go in and fix that. Okay. So you can hop out to Apple Podcast or Spotify and pick up the whole episode. We're going to get into some Roth conversion stuff on the back half of the show. I hope everybody's enjoying the show, having an awesome and blessed week. You can reach us at 256-937-2010 if you'd like to set up a discovery session. 256-937-2010.
Market fluctuations can be unsettling, but a resilient plan can help maintain stability. Discuss how you might fortify your retirement strategy with Cris Wallace. Text VISIT to 256-937-2010 today to begin. Remember, text VISIT to 256-937-2010.
Are you a federal employee feeling pressure from the early retirement offers like VERA, VSIP, or the Deferred Resignation Program? Recent government initiatives have introduced significant changes to federal retirement programs, making employees feel pressured to consider early retirement or face potential layoffs. At WG Financial Group, we help guide federal employees through these uncertain times. Our team understands the complex federal retirement systems and can help you make informed decisions. Call 256-937-2010 to schedule your complimentary discovery session with us today. We'll help you assess your options and create a personalized retirement plan to help you feel more confident. Visit WGFinancialGroup.com or call 256-937-2010 to book your session. Firm is not affiliated with the U.S. government. Investment advisory services offered through AE Wealth Management, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
If lingering doubts like, have I saved enough? Or will my retirement funds endure? Are on your mind, it's time to consult with Cris Wallace. Text VISIT to 256-937-2010. That's 256-937-2010 to book your appointment and get the answers you need.
And we are so happy you joined us today. This is the Rite Retirement Show with Cris Wallace. Cris is president at WG Financial Group. He's also a certified financial planner, financial advisor there. So he and his team, there's a lot of certified financial planners at your office, Cris. And I know every single one of you is so passionate about helping retirees. And that's why we do this show. So excited to have everybody along with us today. All right. So most people, when we think of taxes, we think of April 15th, tax day, right? But strategic retirement planning means actually thinking about taxes year round. Cris, you've taught this to us, and one of the most powerful tools for retirement tax planning is a Roth conversion, okay? That's moving money from your traditional IRA or 401k into a Roth IRA. So let's go ahead and start with the basics. Cris, tell us what happens when someone converts their traditional retirement account to a Roth, and also just why so many retirees are doing this strategy right now.
So let's talk about something that you mentioned, that most people think of taxes on tax day, which is April 15th.
Yeah.
That's true. But if we're looking at Roth conversions, those have to be done by end of year. So as we get into this discussion, I just want the listener to know that if you think about taxes on April 15th, you're going to be late on the Roth conversion. So Roth conversions, require some upfront planning. I've had Kelly Myers on the show. Yeah. He's a local enrolled agent on the show many times. And he said something that really resonated with me the first time that he was on the show. And it was essentially that if you're thinking about your taxes on April 15th, you're having a historical discussion with yourself in a lot of cases. Yeah. Because, there's tax preparation and tax planning, and the tax prep is essentially you're having that historical. Your numbers are what they are. You've got to get it done. You got to get the return filed, and there's not a lot of room for planning at the last minute. Now, there's certain things you can do. Don't get me wrong, because I probably got people saying, "Oh, there's something." Yeah, there are. You can file an extension, and you can do some things.
But you're still looking back at last year's.
Right. You should somewhat have a forward-looking investment tax plan, and coming up with tax-efficient strategies of things that you can do now and in the near future that will impact the return on April 15th. So with that said, let's talk about Roth conversion. So again, first of all, they got to be done by the end of the year. So we're kind of in the fourth quarter at this point.
Yeah.
So I think you have to start thinking about that.
This would be a good time, yeah.
It is. The other thing to think about too is once you do convert, it does create a taxable event. So I know that sounds elementary to some people listening to the show, but there are a lot of people that don't know that. And you'd be surprised, we get people in the office and they're like, "Hey, I want to take my money. I want to convert it to that Roth thing." And I was like, "Well, all right. Well, I don't know. Well, we can do that, but here's kind of what happens when we do that. It does create a taxable event. And you do have to pay income tax on that in the year that it's done. So if you do a Roth conversion, say by the end of 2025, you're actually going to pay taxes in 2025 on that. There's no way to really kind of defer that.
You can't put it off till 26. Yeah.
No, not really. Can't do that. I wish there was a way to do that. There are things you can do from an itemization standpoint to mitigate some of the taxes you may pay, but make no mistake about it. When you convert it and you pull it across what I call the tax line, you're going to pay taxes on that. Yeah. Now, the benefits of a Roth conversion is that you don't have taxes in the future because the money's going to grow tax-free in the future. And there's 2 5-year rules that I just kind of want to discuss here just real briefly. you have before 59 and a half. So you can do Roth conversions before 59 and a half, and you can do them after 59 and a half. Okay. So let's take the before 59 and a half so that we can touch on that for a second. So if you convert below 59 and a half, and so for most people, this would be why you're still working. Okay. So you say you want to maximize the 24 bracket, and you're going to convert some Roth to do that. So, all right. So you convert in the 24 bracket, and what happens is below 59 and a half, you actually have 2 5-year rules that you have to worry about. So the converted principal, you have a 5-year rule there. So let's just say that you're 45 years old. And remember that the IRS looks at tax years. So you would have 2025 and then 4 more years after that you could not touch the converted principal. Okay. Below 59 and a half, you do not have access immediately to converted principal versus 59 and a half plus. You do. Okay. So it's an important rule for people to know.
Yeah.
So below 59 and a half, you've got a 5-year wait before you can touch the converted principal. And remember, the IRS looks at tax years. So whether you converted it on January 2nd or December 28th, it's still the same in terms of tax years. So the date doesn't matter. It's the tax year that's important. The interest earned has its own separate 5-year 59 and a half rule. So in the case of below 59 and a half, you would have the 5-year rule on the converted principal. You'd also have the 5-year rule on the interest that's being earned on that money. And the 5-year rule is 59 and a half or 5 years. Well, in this particular case, say somebody's 45, just for lack of a better term here, or trying to figure all these years out, at age 50, they could touch that converted principal without any penalties or tax. But the interest would need to sit until 59 and a half.
Gosh,
so
okay. Wow.
It's important to know the rules with the conversions along with the tax ramifications of conversions. And lastly, I'll say these couple of things. Number one, you have to have a long view when it comes to Roth conversions because you're going to need time to let that money grow tax-free. So you need to have a long time horizon. I'm not sure that it makes complete sense, say, for like an 85-year-old to Roth convert.
Right. Yeah.
Where I think at age 60, it makes a lot more sense at age 60 to think about. So long view is one. The other thing that I think is really important, at least from my perspective, now there may be people that disagree with this theory, but it's okay if you do. It's our kind of view that if the risk capacity and risk tolerance of the clients will allow this, we like to make the money a little bit more aggressive.
Okay.
So, for some people that's not comfortable, but again, you're going to pay a lump sum in tax, and now we've got this money in a tax-free bucket, for lack of a better term, and we want that money to grow tax-free, and we prefer that we have a lot of that money because who doesn't like tax-free money, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
If the person's risk tolerance and then also risk capacity will allow for it, we do like to recommend that money be a little bit more aggressive. Just because we want that money to grow a little bit more aggressively there.
Yeah,
so
I like that.
That's a little bit on Roth conversions. And then also, because I did have this question actually in the past couple of weeks, somebody had calculated their RMD, required minimum distribution, and they had included the Roth account. And I had to tell them that, hey, you don't have to count the Roth money inside your qualified money for your IRA. But he said it's qualified. I said, well, yeah, it is. But it's not pre-taxed, and 73 and 75 is when you have to start taking from pre-tax funds as an RMD, and the Roth is excluded from that. So that's just important to know.
Point.
Again, there's a lot of people out there that, Chris, I already know that. Yeah, but you'd be surprised at how many people just don't know the little things.
Right, because there are so many little things, And with everybody hearing about our country's growing debt and how that's going to probably lead to higher tax rates in the future, then that makes it all the more reason to maybe do a Roth conversion so people can navigate those potential tax challenges. So why don't you kind of expand on that, talk about RMDs and things like that?
Yeah, so the thing that we don't know, and this is the unknown to any advisor and tax person, and no matter who you talk to, nobody really knows the future. With the amount of debt that the country is racking up and the amount of things that the government wants really the taxpayer to fund, right? So there's things that, we pay taxes on that fund the government, and they're they're building the budget, and I don't always agree with everything that that our tax dollars go towards. But what am I gonna do about it? No, I'm gonna pay my taxes. That's what I'm gonna do about it.
Yeah.
So we have to assume that the debt, they aren't going to be able to get that under control. So I think we can make an assumption that at some point in time, taxes will go up. Now, I'm not one of the negative Nancy's or negative Nellies, as I've heard it called, where I think, rates are going to the 90% marginal rate. I'm not one of those people. But I do think tax rates probably have to go up in the future if we can't somehow control spending. So there is the threat of rising marginal tax rates. And some people are going, well, no, they're permanent. They are until they're not.
Yeah, exactly.
They are until a different congressional party gets in. And I feel for the next congressional party that tries to change the tax code, because it's pretty low and it's pretty good right now, especially if you're over age 65 and you're getting that extra senior deduction. I think you got to kind of be a moron and to run, for office and say, I'm going to change the tax code. It's well, are you going to make it lower? Because it's already really low right now. Yeah. You guys are already publishing media outlets and articles where you're saying that, that there's a budget shortfall. There's a budget shortfall because the tax rates didn't revert to the old tax rates and they stayed really low.
Right.
So, yeah. So anyway, I think it's got to go up. But here's kind of the threat that you run into. You could have $1 million IRA at, say, age 60, and literally by the time you hit 75, that IRA could be, $3 to $4 million. That's a reality for some people.
Yeah. Wow.
And there's a substantial difference in required minimum distribution between what's required at $1 million, and I'm going to round it. It's about 4% of $1 million is about $40,000. Well, if your IRA is $3 million, now we're looking at $120,000 in an RMD. And if it's $4 million, now we're at $160,000. And what that means to me is new tax bracket, more than likely.
Yeah.
That also means that you could be in the NIT bracket as well, that net investment income tax, where you make where you're charged an additional 3.8% on interest and capital gains above $250,000 as a married couple. It also means you could be up 1, 2, 3 IRMA limits. I don't know exactly where.
Gosh.
So when you're doing those Roth conversions or considering those, what you're doing is you're trying to hedge against higher taxes in the future. And that's the unknowns. And you know what? Tax rates could stay exactly the same for the rest of my life. It could. And still Roth conversions would help in some cases. It would still help, several families out there to do that. But if tax rates go up, then it really helps, because essentially you're kind of converting in a lower bracket to go ahead and get rid of the future taxation, allow the accounts to grow tax-free. And that's really what a Roth conversion is kind of doing. It's kind of hedging against the threat of rising taxes. And in some ways, you're disinheriting the IRS for part of your money.
Right.
Now, if you have a pension, I always tell families this, I kind of make a little joke. If you have a pension, I can't convert a pension. So like your federal employees, military getting a pension that's not disability, I can't convert those. So you're always going to have some tax liability on that. So there'll be some taxation we can't really get rid of. But as far as those other assets that are in IRAs and 401ks, you can do that. I do want to note here that in the TSP, they are starting in 2026. They're going to allow Roth conversions with the TSP.
Ooh, nice.
But there's a little bit of a catch here. You have to pay the tax from after tax dollars, meaning you have to have like savings account or something like that, where you're going to reach in and then you're going to send the IRS or the Department of Treasury your estimated tax payment for that conversion. You can't withhold it from the TSP.
From what you're drawing from. Yeah. Okay.
Correct. So like, for example, in an IRA, you could target converting, I don't know, say $75,000, and you would take 100, you'd withhold $25,000 in taxes, and your net conversion would be like $75,000. You can do all of that within the IRA. You can't do that with the TSP. Okay. You got to take care of the taxes outside of the TSP. So just a little bit more about conversions that people need to know about.
Yeah, again, there's so much to know. If you want any guidance on anything like what we're talking about right now, I want to make sure you have our phone number because, basically Chris and our team are just standing by. They would love to guide you about any question you have regarding retirement. 256-937-2010 is the number to call. You can text the word visit if you prefer texting. So either way. But get on their calendar because it is complimentary and they're waiting to give you some guidance. Okay. So thank you for joining us. You're listening to Retire Right Radio on this Sunday. I'm Lou Ann Fulmer here with Cris Wallace. So seems like timing is going to be everything with the Roth conversions. Chris, talk about maybe some key timing opportunities that we need to be looking out for.
Yeah. So market downturns is really an opportune time to do it, right? Because you're converting your pre-tax dollars. Let's say they drop 20%, like they did in April. Just saying, we've had a market downturn already this year of around 20%. If you're able to catch one of those, it makes sense, and especially if you're already considering it, it's like, okay, why would you not do it? So I know that's an opportune time, but there is an element of timing there, and I do see some people thinking about like this. I want to wait for the next drop before I convert, and it's like, wait a minute, we already had a 20% drop in the spring. Well, I'm waiting for another one. Well, you realize that we don't have a lot of double like 20% drops in the same year.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't look at the numbers on this, but it's a very small amount. Now, can the market drop more than 20%? Of course it can. But even at that, more than 20% is still a small number in the grand scheme of market drops. It's still a smaller number. But I still have people say I'm waiting on the next drop. And what happened in the spring, I can tell you exactly what happened. It was the market's down 20%. We've got this tariff thing going on. And I think the market might drop further. So I'm just going to sit back.
Yeah.
And instead of buying the shirt on sale, i.e. buying the taxes on sale 20%,
right,
people sat back and they said, you know what? I just don't know what's going to happen.
Mm.
Well, then all of a sudden you're frozen with indecision. You're not able to make the decision. And the right decision, in my opinion, would have been, hey, just think about converting some of it. You don't have to do all of it.
Yes,
convert something. Because I use this analogy before. I love to shop at like TJ Maxx and some of these other stores where they have a clearance rack.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first place I go.
Yeah.
I'm going right to the clearance rack first. I'm going to see if I can.
Yeah.
Exactly. Can I buy a sport coat that's on sale, a shirt that's, 20, 25% off, and I'm going to snatch it just real quick. Like I'm going to buy that. Why wouldn't we think about that with our investments?
Yeah.
If the market's off 20%, and we're already thinking about, and we've talked with our advisor, we've talked with our CPA, why would we not at least do some of that at 20% off?
Mm-hmm.
It just baffles me. So market downturns, again, kind of hard to time. When it presents itself, jump on it. Definitely jump on it. In between now and RMD age, 73, 75, great time. Those are kind of like the gap years between when you're forced to take money. Because remember, a lot of people don't know this rule, so we'll just go over this rule as well. When you start taking RMDs, you can still Roth convert in those years, but you must first satisfy your RMD first, and then you can convert. The pulling of the RMD does not count towards your required minimum distribution. A lot of people think that it does.
Oh.
It does not.
Okay.
You must satisfy the RMD, settle up with your taxes, and then you can convert after that. So the RMD must be satisfied first. Another time would be if you're going to be in low income. So, for example, you're working, and I don't know, you're in the 32% bracket, marginal bracket at this point, or maybe up in that 24 pretty high. And then you retire, and now your bracket drops down into, let's just say, the 12% bracket. Well, that'd be an opportune time to say, you know what, I'm going to kind of start converting in a lower bracket, either the 12 or the 22. So those low income years, it makes sense. The other time I think it makes sense also, and this goes back to something we talked about in the first half of the show with Social Security. This is how all of these things in retirement work together. And so before Social Security starts. So if you are considering Roth conversions, then you may want to delay Social Security, because Social Security, one, you're going to start the claiming process. You're going to lock in your benefit, and also you got to put that income on the tax return. And so it kind of clouds the return with additional income.
Yeah.
So that it kind of eats up some of your conversion room. So if you're thinking about it, market downturns is great. The gap years before RMDs, low income years, or before Social Security, and build that into your strategy.
Wow. Okay. So clearly not a one size fits all, but how do you guys help your clients determine, if a Roth conversion strategy is going to be right for them and then how much they need to convert?
Yeah. So we use a couple of softwares to take a look at it. And
Okay.
I will tell you, the younger you are, the more sense it seems to make. There's longer time for the compounding after the conversion for the money to kind of compound tax-free.
Mm-hmm.
So we use a couple different softwares. We look at numbers, kind of go back and forth with the client, look at what it does to their overall picture for them, look at it from the legacy aspect of it. And that's how we do it. Just use a couple of softwares to kind of help
Love it.
guide us.
I bet they love that because it gives you if we do it this way, this is what happens. If we do it this way, then this, I
Well,
love that.
they do. And of course, I always say I'm not a CPA. I can't give tax advice.
Right.
But what I can tell you is, like, when I'm running the numbers, I can say this gives us an indication that it can potentially help you long term.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the languaging that I'll use there. And then, of course, if they have a CPA, we always say, hey, you want to get this looked at and verified by a CPA. So.
Yeah. Chris, let's go back to that concern that people are going to have, that if they do a conversion, it's going to, you're going to have an immediate tax bill. And so they are worried about writing that check and they don't know where to grab that money from, all that. Tell us the advice that you typically give your clients who are wrestling with the idea of paying taxes now to save later.
But wrestling is an understatement, Luann. This will be the number one reason why people don't do Roth conversions, because they're looking at the today version. Do the conversion. I got to write the IRS a check.
Yes.
Today. And this hurts because, on $100,000, if you're in the 24 bracket marginal, it's $24,000 on the federal side. You're going to write the check for. And then you've got, roughly, let's just call it another 5% in Alabama. That's hard for some people. It's hard for them to mentally wrap their head around, all right, I know I'm going to take the medicine today so that I don't have to deal with taxes later on. It's a very big mental hurdle for people to get over. And this is the number one reason why families don't Roth convert is because they don't want to pay the tax today. They see the enormous tax bill, which again, in some cases can be 5 or 6 figures, depending on how much you're converting. So it scares people. So where do we get the money from? That's really what the really point of your question was.
Right.
So we talked about one way where you can do it. If you're converting, again, say 100,000, you can withhold the taxes from the conversion inside of an IRA. You can't do this in a 401k, but if you have an IRA, you can withhold the taxes there. So again, say it's $25,000 you're withholding for federal and state, then your net conversion is $75,000, and that's what goes into the Roth. Okay, if you are going to convert that same 100,000, but you have 25,000 in savings or wherever, a money market, and you're like, hey, you know what? I don't want to withhold the tax from the IRA conversion. I'll pay it from an after-tax source. Well, now you're starting that Roth conversion with the full 100,000 because you've paid that $25,000 in tax from an outside source. So that's really the big differential, is the starting point.
Yeah.
But if you look at the net worth, it's kind of the same. You're just pulling it from one pocket, from the left pocket or the right pocket. But if I had to give, like, which way do I personally think is the best, like absolute best, if you pay the taxes from another source.
Okay.
But yeah, that's really, by the rule book, that would be the best way to do it. But here's the thing, like, if you're going to do 4 conversions, and let's just say they're 100,000 a piece over 4 years, and you're going to withhold, or going to pay $25,000 a year in taxes, that's $100,000 in savings or money market or after-tax dollars that you have to have in order to be able to pay the tax. And not that many people have a 6-figure non-qualified savings account sitting around.
Right.
Most people don't. They have most of their money is inside of the actual IRAs and 401k, and that would be called qualified funds. So the best way to do it is to pay the taxes from an outside source and not withhold it from the IRA. But that doesn't happen very often.
Okay, but that's great advice. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
Okay, so we were talking earlier about the benefits of a Roth conversion and the windows of opportunities for making them. But here's something people don't realize, and I want you to talk about this, Cris. A poorly executed Roth conversion can potentially cost you more money than it saves, and you could accidentally push yourself into a higher tax bracket. And then, like you said, you trigger those Medicare premium increases, and oh my gosh, so many landmines from there on. So talk about, because you've seen it, talk about some of the most expensive mistakes you've seen people make when they try to do these Roth conversions on their own.
Yeah, I don't think I will say this, like, again, I'm not, how we do the show, Luann. We're not one of these, oh my gosh, you can't do this, you can't do that, and fear this and fear that. Like, this is not the way we are. But I've seen some mistakes. And one of the mistakes is converting too much and kind of jumping into that next bracket. But kind of here's the deal. If you're planning on staying in the 22 bracket, and let's say you go over by $1,000 and you end up $1,000 is in the 24 bracket. Well, big deal. Like, you're going to pay 24% on that $1,000 because it went over.
Yeah.
So it's not a big deal.
Okay.
It's just, oh shoot, we messed up and we paid a little bit more than we really wanted to. Where it becomes a problem, you may go into the next IRMA bracket. So the first IRMA limit is $212,000. So that's where the first IRMA limit starts. So you want to definitely remain under $212,000 if you want to stay under IRMA number 1 and stay in the normal Medicare bracket.
Okay.
And I've seen it where, if you go over by $1, you're done. Like, you're done. Yeah.
Oh
and you're going to have, and what's going to happen is 2 years down the road, you're not going to feel that immediately. And so what's going to happen is you're going to get 2 years down the road, and now all of a sudden Medicare is going to look back 2 years in your return, and you had $214,000 of modified adjusted gross income. So you're like $2,000 over the limit. Yes. And what's going to happen is your Medicare premium is going to go up. But this is why I say it's not the end of the world, is it just stays elevated for 1 year. That's assuming you get back below that bracket.
Oh, okay. That's good.
One, you're not stuck there for life.
Okay.
That's why I say it's not the end of the world.
Good.
It's really only for a year as long as you correct it, because the next year Medicare is going to look back 2 years, which would have been a year later. Yeah, and now you're under it, so you're fine.
Okay.
So, but it can be a surprise for some,
right?
Because some people don't know where those limits are, and they're just willy-nilly Roth converting, and you can go over, and next thing you know, you laughing at my willy-nilly?
Yes.
Yeah. My mom used to say stuff like that.
Willy-nilly.
So then that can be that can be an issue. And then, doing it all at once versus a gradual strategy, we call that the nuclear option. So if somebody wants to do it all, is that really the best thing? In some cases it is. Sometimes our software says, hey, you know what, nuclear option, get it done. And then you're done with it, right? So it just depends. And then ignoring that 5-year rule. We talked about the 5-year rule a few minutes ago with, before 59 and a half, you get the 5-year rule on the converted principal. And then after 59 and a half, you don't really have the 5-year rule on the converted principal because you're above 59 and a half, and you can take from that money immediately, but you do have the 5-year rule on the interest. So there's a lot of things that I think people need to consider. I would highly advise individuals and families to talk to both a tax person, but also a pretty good financial planner as well. Of course, I carry a bias because I'm a certified financial planner, and we have 5 of those on our team at this point. So we are in tune with what we think families should do. But always when you're talking about tax things like this and Roth conversions, you definitely want to be in conversation with a tax accountant, a CPA, or somebody, so that you can just kind of validate some numbers and make sure that you feel 100% comfortable. Because once you pull the trigger, we can't unpull the trigger. So that's the thing with Roth conversion. So Luann, it's been a great show. We're done again.
Well, thank you for this great information. Appreciate you.
Yeah, awesome. And I will just kind of close this up here. Hope everybody has an awesome and blessed week. And to remember to serve every person in every situation with a servant heart. Our number is 256-937-2010. If you want to set up a discovery session, 256-937-2010.
Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA.
Investment advisory services made available through AE Wealth Management LLC, AEWM. AEWM and WG Financial Group are not affiliated companies. Insurance products are offered through the insurance business WG Insurance Services. WG Financial Group is an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through AE Wealth Management LLC, AEWM, a registered investment advisor. AEWM does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by WG Insurance Services are not subject to investment advisory requirements. AEWM and WG Financial Group are not affiliated companies. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. WG Financial is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. Information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by WG Financial. This radio show is a paid placement.